So this is my first test that I use Flex Loop. And actually I peeled the RM in the macular area already and I want to try, so I go a little bit periphery. If you close one eye, at the time you can see that it's a disparity and it's gonna be tear soon because there's a lot of disparity. I think we use a monocular clue. This is not now. Okay. In the left eye, I cannot see the retina, but I think I lost the rheopsis, and the brain cannot adjust for the new depth perception with monocular clue with one eye.
So you're blaming the...
Yeah.
I don't know what you're blaming, but...
Yeah. Because normally I did it success at first, and if you want to criticize, maybe when and the position of the tip, I don't know, I lost the depth perception, and I didn't do it in high magnification enough. But this is early era of use 3D, and
usually people blame their fellow.
Yeah. Actually, but I don't want to lie. Okay.
Any comments from the panel? David?
Yeah, so I think the finesse loop is the step forward from the Tano diamond membrane scraper, right? And so I think for 20 years ago when I started, we were using membrane scrapers all the time, and a lot of damage got done with them too. And so at the end of the day, whether you're using a membrane scraper or a finesse loop, you have to be careful. And so when I'm showing the fellows those two instruments in their hands, when you start kind of scratching or painting on the retinal surface, if you see blanching, if you see the RPE turning white, you're pushing way too hard, and that's when you're going to tear the retina. So there's a finesse component to a painting motion where you have to be painting with either of those instruments, where you have to paint such that you're not creating any RPE blanching. Otherwise, you're either going to get RPE contusions or you're going to rip the retina. So the other thing that he didn't do when he was struggling there, he had the finesse loop fully extended. So the other option you could have done is tighten up the loop, which now increases the traction on those tines, so that now you can take that time with the loop pulled in, and you would have been able to paint, and it would have ripped the ILM a little bit easier for you.
Yes, and make sure that the edge is at the edge of the ILM. Maybe it's a little bit, but when I lost it, maybe I go a little bit in the area that already peeled. So the finesse loop, that it's drag the internal retina. It's only a avulsion. It's not a break. Just, yeah.
Well, I think the good news is, again, the outcome is usually good because, again, these are usually peripheral. So the key is start peripheral. Don't start too close to the macula, especially because if you're doing a very large swipes of painting. But I think David's point is a great one regarding, number one, the big advantage of Flex Loop is that you can see through it. Tano brush, you couldn't see through it. So once you were pulling, if you're pulling too hard, you saw the retina coming, but you saw it after it was already torn. Here you can see actually what you're doing because you're looking through that opening. And as soon as you see any blanching, that's actually the sign that you're pressing too hard. Sometimes it's not, it's just the retina is too mobile, you're not getting an edge. The second point is that I'm doing more and more personally is I'm actually making a very small opening, not a large opening, and use it more as a pick. I just want to get an edge. Now, I have seen many videos that people actually peel with the Flex Loop, and personally, I don't think that's a great idea because you're massaging the nerve fiber layer doing that. That was not the purpose of the device. The purpose was to get an edge and then use an ILM forceps to do the peeling. The third is if you're struggling and you're not getting an edge, go somewhere else. Don't keep doing the same area more and more, especially if you're sitting widening or you see bleeding, just stop and go to another area. If you have difficulty visualizing, restain. Many times you think you don't have an edge. You restain, you see you actually had an edge and you see a lot better. And the last point is if you start peeling, one of the better places to do is usually start inferiorly, because anything happens inferiorly, again, patient will not notice because it gives you a superior visual field effect. You start peeling superiorly and then you get a torn retina or any damage superiorly, it will impact the inferior field and it may become more noticeable. But again, I think it's a great step forward because it allows you to see what you're doing. But again, as David pointed out, you want to be, with any instrument, you want to be cautious.
Kirk, who Kuris and I both have had the fortune to work with, taught me way back when I moved to Chicago that with either of these types of devices, if you're struggling, you said to go somewhere else. And the somewhere else for Kirk was always to go to the edge of a blood vessel. Because if you look at the anatomy of the ILM there, it basically attaches to the edge of the vessel there, and when you pull there, it's going to rip easier. So that was a little pearl Kirk always had in terms of initiating the ILM peel, was go to the edge of a vessel.
Great point. So that's actually where you want to start. Not if you're a pinch and peeler. So if they want to use the forceps and not the ILM forceps, don't start next to the vessel. But otherwise, as Dave pointed out, that's the great area to start getting an edge.